morning, everyone. Thank you for being here today to honor and appreciate our founder, Konko. And thank you also for our wonderful helpers and donors for last week's Sunday garage sale. We made our goal over $1,000. And it's so funny because a long time ago, our goal was at least $500. At least $500. And that was before we met Clayton. And Clayton was like, 500, why don't you make it $1,000 goal? I was like, 1,000? I was like, you know what? I've never thought of making 1,000. I thought maybe 500 is enough. I was like, a bigger goal, it wouldn't hurt to have a bigger goal. So I thought, okay, $1,000, $1,000 is our goal coming from $1,000. And then really, ever since we had that $1,000 goal, we have been reaching that $1,000 goal. So I'm telling you, Clayton's dreams are bigger than mine. So he's an inspiration. So, thank you. We were very fortunate because the weather was very favorable for us. And that morning, the ground was dry, so we could lay out the carpet and the clothes and stuff. Because we're supposed to have heavy rain on that day, because of the remnants of the hurricane that was north of us. And so that was really a big okage. So thank you once again, and thank you for people who prayed for us. Yesterday, we had our second public tour event for the Honouliuli 10th anniversary event. And there was only a few people, but it was really nice talking to those few people. And they had an opportunity to learn about our founding minister, Reverend Haruko Takahashi, and her incarceration at the Honouliuli Internment. And she was arrested just 1 week after December 7th Pearl Harbor attack. Just 1 week. And she just became a reverend, She just became a reverend, and it wasn't even 2 years since she established this church. Because this church opened in 1940, January 10th, I believe. And it wasn't at this location, though. It was in the Kilani location, right near Wahia General Hospital. That was the first location, actually. And it wasn't a church, it was still a propagation hall. And it wasn't even 2 years, and she got arrested. I really wonder how she felt. Did she regret it? Did she regret becoming a minister? Because it was the fact that she went to the Gakui seminary. She went to Japan for seminary purposes. That's what flagged the U.S. government to put her on the blacklist. I was like, oh, she's suspicious. And that's what got her incarcerated. So it's pretty crazy what happened, right? And yesterday was the first time I learned that all the people who were interned, like before they were released after their few years in internment, they had to sign a waiver and saying that they're not going to talk about what happened. It's like a gag order, and they can't sue later on about what happened. They had to sign that paper before they were released. So I was like, wow, and that's a new thing I learned about this. And so it was like, it makes sense why people who were interned, they didn't say a word, they didn't talk about it. And there was one person who attended yesterday. She was a film producer, and she says she wants to make a film about Honouliuli. And it is so weird because I had this dream of mine. I had a thought. I was like, I wish Honouliuli can be featured on Netflix, or like a documentary on the internment camps, but you can't find any of those kind of films on Netflix. And this film producer, she was interested in making a documentary for the Honouliuli, and she was very interested in Reverend Haruko's story, especially. So she came here to learn about her. And she said she's trying to find funding to make a Netflix documentary. I was like, what? And maybe Haruko Sensei might be in that film. So I'm praying that dream can come true. So even if I cannot be that film producer to make that happen, it's like Kami-san will send somebody else, a very talented person. So I really hope that comes true. And that's what happened about yesterday. And on Friday, I'm going all over the place, but I have a lot to talk about. On Friday, I had the privilege to attend the annual Oncology Nursing Society Conference. It was at the Four Seasons, and along with several colleagues. And while I was attending, I was like, wow, being at Four Seasons, this beautiful hotel, amazing buffet, complimentary breakfast, free valet parking. And I was like, this couldn't have been possible if it weren't for my great grandma and my grandma Minako and my mom, who were nurses, and they inspired me. So I just felt their spiritual presence with me while I was attending this conference. So I was like, arigato, bachama, okasan. And I felt so fortunate that I get to listen, and I was really looking forward to attending this conference. And it's like right after the garage sale, my throat started to get scratchy, my nose started to run. And I was like, no, I cannot get sick because I gotta attend that conference. I've been waiting all year because I learn something every year. But Clayton, she never gets sick, right? So I asked Clayton, how come you never get sick? He said, because I tell myself I'm not to get sick. I will not get sick. And I said, okay, I'm not. Don't get sick. You're not allowed to get sick. You have to attend that conference to learn something very valuable, not to get sick. So I took more than one shot of omiki that night. I feel like a half a cup of omiki, and if you fill up that much omiki with your cup, it no longer is omiki, it becomes sake. And I'm like, Konko-sama! And then I took my goshinmai too, and I prayed in front of the altar. I was like, I gotta attend that conference. I really, really want to, so don't let me get sick. Let me heal the next day. And then guess what? The next day I felt much better. I had a really pounding headache though. but that sick feeling was gone. And I was like, wow, that worked. So I'm glad. Anyways, the topic of the conference was embracing change, enhancing care in oncology. And the lectures for the past few years have been really interesting because they talked about artificial intelligence in cancer care, AI, and medical institutions are beginning to integrate more and more AI into their practice. Like AI is becoming more accurate at reading scans like X-rays and MRIs, more accurate than human beings. And what else? And even like the accuracy to categorize if a certain gray spot on an image is more malignant than it is benign. It's also helping doctors summarize patient visit accurately. The summarization of all that. You have to type it all up, but now AI is like recording the conversation and summarizing the visit already, and like the doctors hardly have to do anything. So it was a very interesting topic. And the presenter shared about what he saw on Instagram about AI in 2050. What's it going to look like? And it was so funny. You have to search it on Instagram because you're going to laugh. And it's about this employer who had this smartphone sitting in his office, and about a prospective person coming in for a job interview. And then she knocks on the door. And then the interviewer tells ChatGPT, what should I do? Somebody's knocking on our door for a job interview. And ChatGPT says, oh, it's a good idea to let that person in. And then, okay, I'll let the person in. What should I do about the door? Oh, you can close the door. Okay, I closed the door. What shall we both do now? You can both sit down. Okay, we sat down. And the interviewer is asking ChatGPT, okay, what question should I ask her? Like, well, you can ask her what she is good at, or like what she can do for a company. And he asked that and repeats exactly what ChatGPT tells him to say. And then the person who's trying to find the job, he said, okay, how should I respond to that? What are my good points, ChatGPT? She can't even tell herself what her good points are. She has to ask ChatGPT what they are for her. And it's like, it's so cringy. And it's like, it's really, it's pretty funny, so you should look at it for yourself. And so technology, again, it's advancing so quickly, and the pace is moving along so fast that people can't keep up. I can barely keep up. And people who can't keep up with the technology are really at a handicap. And even my parents, these days it's become difficult for them to travel to Japan. I mean, they're totally independent. But it's because so many of the things in Japan, they rely on technology and their smartphone usage. They can't keep up. And I have to tell them, like, oh, you have to do this, you have to do this. And it's like, oh, it's a headache trying to teach them because it's hard for them to retain all this technological information. So it's like, it's better for me to just travel with them. and because it's overwhelming. And our over-reliance on technology could really backfire at us if electricity suddenly went out. If we never carry cash around and a blackout happens or something were to happen to the hundreds of thousands of satellites out there in space, or if the internet stopped working, then we're like stuck. Our phones won't work. You know, your Xbox, your PlayStation, they won't work. And technology is so wonderful, but it's such a fragile system. And because earlier this year at my workplace, there was a nationwide internet outage, and it happened for several hours. And I was working that day. It was so mendokusai, it was so cumbersome, because we had to print out the whole patient chart. We can't do anything online anymore on our computers. Even a medication sheet, we have to print that out. We have to circle what we gave them at what time and put our initials, just like the good old days before all this technology came about. And then when the internet came back on again, we had the back chart, and all the notes I had to do, I had to write it with a pencil or a pen on my sheet, right? And it was like, oh, my hands are sore. It's like the muscles in our fingers, my hands weren't used to writing with pen anymore. So it made me realize that, wow, my hand muscles are really lacking. And returning back to the analog days when we have gotten so used to the scanner gun, because we use scanner guns for everything. Beep, scanner ID, scan the medicine, here you go, your Tylenol. It's so easy. Versus circling, initialing it, checking manually. Of course, we have to check manually your identification. But it's like we become so lazy. And it seems like the only time I had to use a pen is when I write checks. That's the only time I'm using a pen these days. You notice that? And now AI, we are losing the fundamental ability to think and feel. We are letting ChatGPT think for us. We are not using our brains much anymore, and we become slaves of AI. But AI is a wonderful tool. ChatGPT is a wonderful tool. I use it every time. I use it to check for grammatical errors for the newsletters we publish, and that's been very helpful. It saves a lot of time and it's very accurate. And I use it to give me ideas for the various committees I am part of. It helps me to write business letters, and emails in proper language, and for me, it's a very helpful tool. And for all the help I receive with my OpenAI ChatGPT, I sometimes tell it, "Thank you for helping me." I know it's just chatbot. It's like a robot, and it's like not a human, but I'm still very thankful. So I put in the area to write, "Thank you for all the information you're giving," because it's really helpful. But again, I have to be careful not to be totally reliant on ChatGPT and technology. That even if we need to go analog overnight because something happened to the electric grid, that we are still able to function. We have to have those skills. Do you know how to cook rice without the rice pot? No, you just press the rice button and cook, and then the rice will be done in about an hour. But if we don't have electricity, do you know how to cook with a fire? Do you know how to cook rice? We should know how to do those basic survival things. And let's not forget the human-to-human interaction. That's really important too. In the last presentation of our conference, we had a talk by a pediatric palliative care physician, and he was so inspirational. He was indeed the modern-day Toritsugi mediator for his pediatric patients. When the founder, Konko Daijin, mentioned that there's going to be Konko Daijins born throughout the world, without exception, I thought he is definitely one of them. His name is Dr. Justin Baker of Stanford School of Medicine. And he talked about key concepts of pediatric palliative care, integration of, he calls it KOALA, quality of life for all kids, and pediatric palliative care, PLL. He emphasized about the importance of compassionate listening. Compassionate listening is very much like Toritsugi mediation, where the Toritsugi mediator is not judgmental. He just listens, and we're like the pipeline between the human world and the spiritual world, and we're just going to take what you gave to us and deliver it to Kami-sama as is, without any decoration or editing. So when someone comes with a problem like depression, anxiety, worried, sad, angry, you feel for them. And we have a tendency to want to fix their problem. I don't want to fix the problem right away. And try to throw them some solutions or, suggestions, but oftentimes it doesn't help at all, and you're actually making things worse for them. And especially if they feel like they're not being listened to. And you say, oh, I just interrupt them part way and just give them suggestions. And he asked us how we deal with parents who just suffer the loss of a child, or whose child is like terminally ill and they're not going to be cured anymore, they're on the path to death. And it's such a heavy topic. How do you deal with those kind of people? And he said there are no words to describe how they're feeling, because yet people try to comfort them and try to say all these reassuring words that really brings no comfort, because the wound is healing too much. And sometimes the pain has to be felt, he says, and it'll help if you can just be there to feel the pain with them. And be a good ear, a pair of ears to listen, understand what they're going through, and just sit there quietly listening. And sometimes that's all they need. They don't need your opinions. They don't care about that. They just want somebody to listen to you. Because with so much mental, spiritual, emotional clutter and wounds, people feel trapped. They cannot see any light at the end of the tunnel. But if we can be there, just to lend both ears to them, not only our ears, but our hearts, it'll slowly lift that spiritual burden off of them. And they have been carrying around. And gradually, they'll be able to overcome those challenges slowly. And there's no judgments and compassionate listening, like I mentioned earlier. And I encountered this recently at work. There was this patient I had, and he had a severe infection going on. And I won't mention the body part, but it was beginning to literally rot. And it looked terrible. And it was in the morning, and I was handing his antibiotic. And the resident doctor came in to see his wound. And the patient was like, you know what, doctor? This happened to me because I am an a-hole. And I deserve all this suffering and pain and what's going on with this situation. And I was like wondering what the doctor is going to respond. How is the doctor going to respond to that? And the doctor was very compassionate. He said back at him, well, I don't think so. We are here to provide the best care possible for your healing. So let's work together. Let's both work together on that goal. And I was like, wow, that's the best answer. Really, really. Very well said, and the patient seemed very happy with the response. The presenter at the conference shared about one encounter that was very inspiring for me. So there was this 14-year-old who had cancer, some kind of lymphoma, and she got chemotherapy, and she did well. And for 5 years, she was like cancer-free. But when she turned 19, she developed leukemia. And it was a secondary cancer because of the chemotherapy she received 5 years ago. Because chemotherapy, especially a lot of the ones that we give, they can cause cancer to you. That's why nurses wear such protective gear. We have to double glove, we have to wear this chemo gown and stuff. Because you don't want that on you. It could get absorbed in your skin and it could cause cancer. Yeah. Chemotherapy can cause cancer. And that's what happened to this one girl. And she was going to college, enjoying her life. But then she developed leukemia. And she was on her third bone marrow transplant. I didn't even know you can get that many bone marrow transplants. I thought like one and you're done, but I guess not. But she was responding well to therapy. However, she had one problem that was really, really putting a cloud over her heart. And what was that? It was, she had diarrhea. And it wasn't no regular diarrhea. She had 3 liters of diarrhea a day. Can you imagine that? Can you imagine how miserable she felt? She said she has to wear a diaper every day. She can't even go out because, she doesn't know when the accidents are going to happen. And it was really diminishing her quality of life, and it was embarrassing. But this doctor, this pediatric palliative care doctor, really listened to her heart on her. And a few weeks later, he saw her again. But she looked like a different person, he said. She was full of smiles, she was beaming joy. He thought she was cured. And he asked her, wow, did your 3 liters of diarrhea go away? And she was like, no, I still have 3 liters of diarrhea a day. but it's because you listened to me that I feel so good again. So I'm like, wow, you know, the power of compassionate listening, and it goes with Toritsugi mediation as well. When you have those burdens lifted by just having somebody listen to you, it could cause, it makes a world of a difference. So it made a world of difference for this young lady as well. And as she's going through the chemotherapy and cancer treatments, she can now walk with more confidence and gratitude. So that was very, very interesting and inspirational. So similarly, again, the power of Toritsugi mediation, where the sensei is here to listen to you free of charge now. That's unheard of. Counseling, you pay hundreds of dollars, thousands of dollars, but because of insurance, it's like you feel like you're paying nothing. But you know, where can you get this kind of service? And the better part about Toritsugi mediation is it is compassionate listening plus the fact the sensei will pray for you. Now that's an added bonus. And I highly encourage you to come over here, establish a relationship with your sensei. I know Yama sensei, he looks intimidating sometimes, but you can learn to get comfortable talking to him. Or you could talk to one of us. You could talk to David sensei as well. You could talk to Rodney sensei. You could call him in San Francisco. You could call my mom as well. And we're here to listen to you and offer prayers. And hope that you can spark that original joy that was in our hearts, that lit a spark again. Not that original sin, but that original joy that's in our hearts. Thank you very much.
Thank you for coming this service. Actually, I listened to Innocent's message yesterday when I was driving to Honouliuli. My conclusion, if every doctor exerts such a compassionate service to each business, the institution or hospital will function. They know what works, but they cannot, for maybe management or affair like that. They know what works, even education or medical work. They know what works well. But for some reason, they hastily adapt that method. And nowadays I feel like actually, a few days ago, Rex said he was uncomfortable around here. So he went to chiropractic doctor, and that's the 5 or 6 billion patient, and healed to some extent. But what about the blessing of Konko pill? Can we visualize how they come to church. When you come to church, what blessing can you visualize? Healing, aching body healed. Feel comfortable. And when you go to restaurant, you can enjoy good food. You can think, this is very good, but not good. It's quite upright. What about the blessing you can receive? Like your decision to go. In old days, the many people suffered physically, mentally. They come to church and get healed. Yeah, we get answered by God. And even my ancestors, my grandfather, his blessed children, we call Konko. It's a vision. They could experience their blessings. So I try to find out how can we visualize the blessings we have received through Konko His practice. We say doing any normal everyday thing can do with any problem can be done, but it is so true. 当たり前が当たり前にできることが愛のおかげなんだ。This can be visual through our spiritual eyes. We develop by attending Konko practice, by practicing faith. So each one of us try to nurture and grow our spiritual visualization. The power to see, power to identify blessings for coming. Thank you very much.